And we started making names right away. And I loved it. I was robbing drug dealers, taking their gold right off their neck. And the shit we did, who's going to call the police on you? A drug dealer?
I can identify with anything that was normal, to be honest with you. But I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Yeah.
99% of the time, you're going to disagree.
Just like the Donnie Brasco situation with Lefty?
Yeah, because the reason why, they figure it this way. You brought this guy around, he ratted on everybody, now he ratted on you. You might turn around and join him and rat on us, so we get rid of you. There's no connection between there and there, and they get rid of you.
Welcome to this episode of Chattin with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got some major things to talk about. So there's a lot of things going on in the news. I'm going to go over a couple stories that are going on. As you can tell, I'm not in my usual location because I'm handling business, and I got something major to let you guys know about today. So stay tuned. Things are going to get real today. You guys have been asking, oh, you keep saying you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Just watch today. Today is the day. So, and you're going to do this. Shout out to Carol. Shout out to everyone out there that watches my show. I appreciate you taking the time. So the first story we're going to go over is this rapper in St. Louis who killed his grandparents. Crazy. So a St. Louis rapper walked into a psych ward covered in blood after allegedly killing his grandparents. A St. Louis rapper who goes by Woozy the Goat has been accused of killing his own grandparents. The 25-year-old, whose real name is Devon McRoberts, was taken into custody shortly after he walked into a psych ward covered in blood. Local police have been looking for Roberts after they discovered his grandparents, Donald Roberts, 71, and Kathy Roberts, 58, dead in their Elm Street home on Tuesday, March 21st. Their cause of death has not been revealed. Mere days before suspected of murder, Roberts claims he was God on Facebook and showed up to a relative's home and made similar claims, knocking on the door and saying it's God. The sister Pamela told the St. Louis Post that he was talking about how he was God and they were all going to die, and said he was going to rewrite the Bible. So he walked into the psych ward covered in blood. That's crazy. So I don't know what would cause someone to do something like this. It's really sad. Let's watch this video.
You don't think I'm strong enough?
I don't know if you're cruel enough.
I don't know why it's not working, but I'm gonna play this video that I edited, and I got it ready for you. Shout out to Vic Ferrari. His link is in the description of this video if you want to check it out. Here we go. Let's get into it. Here's part one of Vic. To this episode of Chattin with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Vic Ferrari. What's up, Vic?
Hey, Bill, thank you so much for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate you taking the time, too. So you want to tell the people where you were born and raised?
Yeah, I'm a New York City kid, born and raised in the Bronx, lower middle class family. Dad was a butcher. Mom was a housewife. Didn't really have that much money, extra money laying around. And by the age of 5, I kind of knew what I wanted to do with my life. Growing up in the 70s and 80s in New York City, you had all the police shows on television. So, Hill Street Blues and the Rockford Files and Barney Miller. I knew what I wanted to do. And then by age 10, my friends and I would go into the local post office and steal FBI wanted posters off the wall and go around the neighborhood conducting manhunts, and we'd be in the deli with this flyer of some poor guy wanted for a homicide in, Baltimore. And we'd be in like the deli looking at some telephone repair guy. Like, that could be the fucker right there. By 20, I took the test. By 21, I went through the police academy, and I had a wonderful 20-year career with the New York City Police Department.
So, but growing up, did you have anybody that was around your area that was on the other side of law enforcement?
Oh yeah,
Did you ever get swayed that way? Like swayed?
Well,
that
in
way?
my neighborhood, well, my dad worked for a wholesale meat place out in Queens, which was owned by the mafia, as I come to find out years later. But as a 13-year-old kid, when he used to bring me into work with him, he's out there trimming steaks and breaking down slabs of beef, and I'm making chopped meat and sausage as a 13, 14-year-old kid. And I don't realize, like, the guys that I'm hanging around with, are guys that just got out of the can, and they have jobs there, so they can show a W-2, but, who God only knows what they were doing. But there's a funny story in one of my books. One day, my father sent me up to the second floor to get something, and a guy comes tumbling down these concrete stairs. And I don't remember their names, but let's just say Vinny and Anthony come walking down the stairs after the guy. And the guy is like all broken up, his arms, he's all fucked up. He's like, help, help. And Vinny and Anthony are coming down the stairs laughing. And they're like, oh, Vic, don't worry about him. He's a friend of ours. And I'm like, friend? And the guy's like, help me, help me. And they picked him up like he was a slab of beef. They carried him out to the street and they threw him with the garbage. So I went, Dad, I run up to my father, Dad, Vinny and Anthony just threw this guy on a fucking flight of stairs. And my father goes, just keep working. Don't worry about what's going on. He goes, I'll find out. So on the ride home, I'm like, I brought it up again. Like, what happened? Why did they throw this guy down a flight of stairs? And my father goes, he's a shoplifter. They caught him once before. They smacked him around. They told him, don't come back. Unfortunately, he did come back. They caught him shoving a slab of I think it was ribs down his pants. They brought him up to the second floor. They beat his ass. They put his hands in a vice, and they threw him down the stairs. So that was the last day I got to work with my father, because he was like, nah, he goes, you're starting to get old enough. You're starting to figure out what goes on around here. I don't want you around it. But, like my neighborhood, you either went civil service or a small majority went to college. And then the rest, they hung around the neighborhood and they got involved in things, sometimes mafia, sometimes not, knock around guys from the street.
Yeah. But did you have any of your friends? Did you get backlash for joining law enforcement? Were some of your friends involved, and did they look at you different after you got involved?
No, I wouldn't. No, I didn't get. No, there wasn't backlash, but there was a kid I grew up with. I went to high school with for a couple of years before he got thrown out. And I thought he was a lot of fun. But he was crazy. He was always, doing things that I wasn't allowed to do. And my parents liked him because they felt bad for him. Your parents see through a lot of things. When you're a kid, you think everything's on the level. Your parents are seeing way more than you can ever imagine, And my parents would bring, invite him over for dinner and give him, our clothes and stuff. Sometimes I'd actually get jealous because I'm like, why are they giving him my shit? But my parents knew he had a rough background. I didn't understand it. And, later as we were becoming teenagers and, my father was like, stay away from him. I go, why? He goes, he's trouble. He says he's not going to live a long life. And I didn't see it. And we basically went our separate ways. And then he went to jail a couple of times. And there's a story in one of my books. I was working in narcotics and I saw him hanging out in front of the bank. And I could tell he was using heroin. And he's like, hey, Vic, long time no see. And I had known he was upstate. And he says, I heard you were gone for a while. He goes, yeah, it was bullshit. I was running a chop shop. And I'm like, I heard you were a burglar. And he goes, no, that's all. I said, right. And he goes, oh, we got to go out for a beer sometime. And I'm like, dude, like, what do we have in common anymore? It's like, it's good to see you. I said, but I'm not supposed to hang around with people, convicted felons. And, you've earned your wings, and I'm going one way, you're going the other way. No hard feelings, bro. But no, did I catch backlash? No, but it was the funny thing is, and I quickly realized, like, after I got hired by the NYPD, I stopped hanging around. Even though I lived in the neighborhood, I didn't frequent the bars in the neighborhood anymore. I mean, I'd go to a restaurant or something, sure, or hit the stores or something, but I didn't hang out in my neighborhood because there was a lot of guys I went to school with that were doing things that, I can't do. So, I had to put that barrier up.
Yeah. Because I find it, I separate myself with the people from my past life, people who use drugs. Like I'm on a different level than where I used to be in life. And it's crazy for you to be living in that environment and you take the direction of law enforcement. Your other friends take the direction of being criminals,
Yeah, there were guys. I was always fast, and not anymore, but I used to be really fast. And I used to play football with the guys that were 3, 4, 5 years older than me, even though I was a lot younger. So here I was 13, 14 years old playing football with 18-year-old guys because I was just that quick. And I'd get picked a lot sometimes. You remember what it was like when you were a kid. You're out in the school. You're, all right, I'll take him. I used to get picked higher than a lot of the older guys because I could move. And, after a couple of years, on the weekends, I'd play ball with these guys, and then they started getting high. And I'm not talking about marijuana, I'm talking about heroin. And all of them, I mean, every single one of them. I mean, there was a couple of fringe players that hung out with them that got away from them. But the guys, like the ones that they all went to jail or they're dead, and it's a list too long to list. And I played ball with these guys, and I used to look up to them because they were older, they were funnier, what I mean, than the kids my age. They were talking about shit that, they had cars but after a while, and the funny thing is, like, after I started moving away from them, my brother started hanging out with them. And I was like, dude, I mean, do you know what they're fucking into? He's like, yeah, I'm just hanging out with them in front of the bank. And then my brother quickly realized, this isn't for me. And he got away from them.
So after you joined law enforcement, what was your first big case that you were involved with?
Well, in the New York City Police Department, you're not really involved in anything big. You know what I mean? It's you're a cog in a 40,000 person department, right? So you do see a lot of wild things, and it's again, it's like being a teenager, right? So you get thrown out in the street, you get 6 months of the academy, which is nonsense. And then it's funny, the academy tells you don't listen to the old timers. And then when you get in the street, the old timers say, don't listen to those douchebags in the police academy. So it's kind of like, well, who the fuck do I listen to, right? But then you quickly figure out the street's coming at you quick. You know what I mean? And it's like, even though I grew up in the Bronx, I mean, I was a good kid for the mischievous, but I was a good kid. But even still, like, I was naive. You know what I mean? Like, I grew up in the Bronx, but I didn't grow up in the South Bronx. And, I'm in the street. People are running up to me with their problems that I can't answer. And sometimes they're speaking to me in Spanish. And I only took remedial Spanish in high school. So, like, besides hola and adios, I'm standing there with my thumb up my ass, not really figuring things out. It takes a while. You know what I mean? It's like, but like I said, life comes at you fast in that line of work. And, you're a rookie cop and you're always going to get the shit assignments. So DOAs, people that die in apartments and stuff, send the fucking rookie in there. So you're searching dead bodies and you're sitting in apartments with dead people waiting for the medical examiner to come and declare them legally dead. And yeah, they can take the body to the funeral home, or no, that body's going to the morgue because we want to do an autopsy. So, I saw a lot of things, but anything like big time? No, not really. That takes a while. I mean, to really, that's later on when you go to the detective bureau and you're working in cases with sensitive material and going after the bad guys. Did I stumble into shit in the street? Yeah, all the time. I pulled over a cab once in the early 90s. There were 3 guys in the back seat with 4 kilos of coke. Just a car stop. Just they were passing the fucking bag around like a hot potato. The bag tore open and they're just fucking looking at me. I'm looking at them and get out of the car, boys. So, did I stumble into things? Yeah, all the time. Another time, my partner and I were in the South Bronx over by the Cross Bronx Expressway. We stopped a cab, and the kid was in the back seat. He had a MAC-10, fully automatic machine gun in the back seat. Locked him up. He somehow got out on bail, and then a couple of weeks later, he killed somebody. So, I mean, things are coming at you fast when you're in the street.
Yeah, especially in New York, a lot of things are happening like constantly, right?
You
So-
grew up in Connecticut, right?
Yeah, Bristol, right where
So
ESPN.
that's Aaron Hernandez territory, right? Like,
yeah.
did you know him or?
Yeah. I've had brushes with him. I tattooed his co-defendant on his neck.
Oh wow, okay. Oh, so you
Yeah.
were in with him.
Carlos
Okay.
Ortiz, I tattooed him. I was in jail with him. I was in and out of prison for a long time. I finally straightened my life up about 4.5 years ago.
State or federal?
State.
Connecticut. I mean, everybody thinks that Connecticut is, like a sleepy place compared to New York, but you got some badasses up there.
Yeah, it's pretty like Hartford and New Britain, Bridgeport,
Yeah.
Haven.
We worked on a case that actually went up to Hartford. We were working on a case where we had guys stealing cars in the Bronx, and the cars were going out to Brooklyn, and we had Chinese nationals that were putting the cars in shipping containers and shipping the cars to Shanghai. So
we used to steal them and bring them to New York.
We probably know some of the same people. So we went up on wiretaps. So we had wiretaps on the Asians, right, who were paying $5,000 a car, and then our thieves lived in the Bronx. They were Spanish and black thieves, so we needed Hispanic detectives to monitor the wiretaps in Spanish. And we quickly figured out that these guys had killed people and were more than willing to do the work for cash. And one of the homicides was a murder for hire at a Hartford. I think the guy that got killed, I'm going to get the names wrong. This is 20-something. The case is almost 25 years old when we arrested these people. And then the homicide happened 5 or 6 years before that. So we're talking close to 30 years. So forgive me if I I don't want to get called a bullshit artist. I'm going to get but I think the guy that got killed was Teddy Casio. It was out of Hartford. If memory serves me correctly, if I'm thinking of the right case, you had guys that were knocking over banks in like the mid-90s. One guy gets caught, goes to jail, does his time. He gets out. His friends now are running Hartford with drugs. He goes to them and says, hey, I want to be an equal partner. They tell him, yeah, go kill this guy. Go pick up this kilo. Go collect money. They're basically treating this guy as a gopher. And I'm hoping I'm not getting 3 different cases confused. But anyway, this guy wasn't going to stand for it. So he kidnapped one of their couriers. This much I remember. He put him in the trunk for a weekend and tortured this fucking guy. Took the drugs and sent him back to his old friends, or maybe they weren't his friends, but he sent him back to wherever they came from and says, I'm not fucking around. So these guys are like, well, he's got to go. So the guy that spent the weekend in the trunk, they sent him to the Bronx, and he hired our car thieves that went up there, and basically they got the guy's routine. They followed him around. They pulled up to him at a light. He was sitting in his car on the back of a motorcycle, and the guy on the back of the motorcycle shot him with a Glock, I think 11 times, just cut the guy to Swiss cheese. They took the motorcycle, drove it into a U-Haul truck, closed the U-Haul truck, so everyone's looking for a motorcycle. It's in a U-Haul truck. They drive the U-Haul truck back down to the Bronx. I forget if they tagged it or chopped it. I mean, this is so long ago. But when we took the case down, the getaway driver on a lot of these homicides was like, we knew he was going to go to jail, and he did not want to go to jail for homicide. I mean, he cooperated. He got like 10 years, but I mean, he buried this one guy. I mean, chapter and verse. We got him on a federal murder for hire in Hartford, and then back in the Bronx and Manhattan, he got convicted on a bunch of homicides. So, I mean, Connecticut's no joke. I mean, you got badasses up there too. Yeah,
definitely. So when you were working that case, that's pretty crazy. I think I heard about that with the U-Haul and the motorcycle.
From podcasts or like the street?
No, from the street, from being from Connecticut. I've definitely heard that before.
I think that homicide, I mean, I know we were onto it like 2000. We were looking into it, but I think it was like 3, 4, 5 years before. Like it was somewhere in the 90s.
There's a project that was called Nelton Court in Hartford. It was a pretty bad project. And It was on. They had a big special on it. On I forgot what it was. Like
What
A&E
was it
type
called?
thing.
What was it called?
Nelton Court. Nelton Court in Hartford.
I'll look it
They
up.
had
I'll
a
look it up.
they had a special on it on angel dust.
Oh.
And I used to go there and buy angel dust back in the 90s, and it was bad.
People
bad
don't.
thing.
Dust is one of those fucking drugs. When I worked in narcotics, right? I was in Manhattan North Narcotics, which covered 59th Street, where like Central Park begins, all the way up to Washington Heights at the Bronx border. So we had river to river, the northern tip of Manhattan. And there was only a couple of dust spots. And I think there was one or two dust spots. One was in the 2-8 and in Harlem. And I fucking hated it when our undercovers would buy dust. You know, it's your undercover goes out, buys a couple of vials of crack, buys a couple of decks of heroin, weed, whatever. Fucking dust, man. It was like, you got to be fucking kidding me with this. And you would know this. I mean, dust has, even when it's not burning, even in those, I remember those little manila pieces of paper, not pyramid paper, the old time little manila envelopes of weed, you could smell it. I mean, we would put it in a plastic bag, and you would get a fucking headache just from it being
marker. Smelled like permanent marker, right?
Worse. Yeah, and then when it's burning, that's even worse. And it's like people just lose their fucking mind on that. I've never seen a drug affect people like dust. In my opinion, that's like I didn't want to fucking deal with it. It was that bad.
I've had experience with it. I've been hospitalized from it.
You get really hot, right? Like you're burning up.
It's just like it mixes your brain up. It scrambles your brain. You really don't know what reality is.
Right. Yeah. I've seen people dusted. It's like, oh fuck. Yeah. It's like, because
what's it like to deal with somebody in New York that's all dusted out of their mind, and you're like, holy shit.
I've only had to deal with a couple of people dusted. I remember one time there was a spot, if you're taking the Major Deegan Expressway going northbound, just before the Yonkers border, there's just before the 233rd Street exit, you've got a gas station there. They used to be mobile stations. I don't know if they're even there. I haven't been in New York in years, but we would go there at night and just pull up on cars, because you would get a lot of the kids from Westchester County. They would go to Washington Heights and buy drugs. And then on the way back, they'd pull over in that gas station and see what they got. You know what I mean? Or they'd get high or whatever. And we would just fucking roll up on them with the lights off and just kind of walk up on the car and shine our flashlights in. And, sometimes we get decent hits of drugs.
What's good, everybody? It's Bill Staxx. So today I am on location. I am going to be bringing you guys with me. I'm going to go live from this place. You guys will see where I'm at. So I told you guys I got some big shit coming, right? I've been working my ass off, and it's finally starting to pay off. So you guys will see what's going on. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop. Till next time. About an hour and a half, I'll be live. And you guys will not believe it.